So I'm sure some other people will start kind of trickling in as we get started here.
Awesome.
But just as a way to kick this off for everybody, what we're going to do, in case you're new here, you're watching this back, is we like to try to find somebody in the Salesforce industry that we look up to or that's been requested. And this scenario, it's both of those. We've had Megan requested several times by people to do an interview with, as
Mhm.
well as somebody that obviously over the last couple of years that I've been able to get to know her. She's done a ton in the Salesforce community, given back a ton. And I think there's just an awesome chat that we can have and kind of take the time to pick her brain a little bit of her perspective on Salesforce and really how we can kind of learn from her so that we can help all the individuals inside our community jump into the Salesforce world. So, Megan, if you want to start us off, just a quick introduction about yourself and how you fit into the Salesforce community, that'd be great.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you so much first for having me. I'm really excited. So I started Salesforce as an end user, actually. I was working at Syracuse and UC Berkeley as an admissions counselor for the data science program. And I found myself very limited. I loved the human to human connection of working with my students, bringing them into tech. But I really just wanted to learn how to further the connection and then combine my love of technology from really their inspiration of things that they were doing. My uncle at that time worked at Capgemini and he said, "Hey, you work with Salesforce. Like, why don't you check that out?" Literally, it took me like a year to get onto the platform. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. But I kicked myself into gear and I fell in love with it. I'm challenged, I'm excited to learn. There's so many different things that you can do. And then now fast forward, I've worked at three different consultancies, all different kind of like enterprise, mom and pop shops. And then from there, I moved on to doing YouTube. I got inspired by Jordan. I'm going to save that story for later. But yeah, I just love giving back to the community and kind of, doing these events and talking about the journey because I think it's different for everybody. And I try not to sugarcoat it, make it as real as possible, but always encourage people to keep going.
Awesome. Perfect introduction. And I like that you touched on some of the places where you started, as well as your consulting journey that we'll probably talk about tonight. One thing that I've really enjoyed getting to know you better and like just your journey in general when we don't talk is I've always felt like you have a really great way of being able to talk about what you're doing and come off as somebody that's really relatable to like the majority of people in the Salesforce industry. I felt like when I first started, something that was difficult is I didn't really have a lot of people like that. I felt like when I first started, it would be, these like legends that you look up to, like David Liu or whoever. And it's like, okay, that's awesome. And I'm glad he gives back. But like, he's just, in my mind at that time, it's like he's such on a pedestal where he's like at Google, he's an architect, he's got 500 certifications. And it's like, that's great. I'm loving that he's able to like break it down and help us. Like, that's super awesome. But I didn't really get to see like that journey, obviously, through that process. And so I think what's been awesome about yours is shortly after I felt like I started creating content, I found you and you've kind of really just documented a lot of that along the way.
Mhm.
And I think it's been a really cool thing to see in the industry because like you just don't see much of that. I feel like you kind of wait, or at least people maybe they feel more comfortable that they'll like wait until they hit some type of like milestone and then they're like, okay, now I'm going to start sharing and now I'm going to talk about this stuff, which
Mhm.
is also fine, but you don't get that other side of it, which is like somebody like yourself that's literally going through the journey and telling us all about it. So I love that. I love that part of it too. With your first position that you started into, if we just kind of start there, when you first found out about Salesforce, like you mentioned, um, after you looked into it, what was like the first path that you felt like you wanted to start going down and why?
Yeah, so because I worked with so many students, like at Syracuse, it was more like those people that, and this is when data science had just come out. So it was like that hot new thing, and everybody kind of wants to break into it. So, like, how do you help these people from different backgrounds, industry backgrounds, pivot into tech? And then shifting over to UC Berkeley, which was more like, I've been in tech for 20 years before data science even became data science. So it's like you're working with such a huge shift of people. I kind of understood how to progress myself if I was to look in more in advance my career, but also that beginning stage. So I said to myself, what do I tell my students? And that was volunteering, getting yourself out there. And I think that that's something that I've never hesitated to do. Uh, my husband says this quote all the time, like, better to ask for forgiveness than ask to do something. I kind of live by that now, or at least that's the excuse. But I started volunteering. I at first wanted to do data science myself. Math is not my skill set. So I quickly had to pivot. And ironically, the nonprofit that I was volunteering with at the time kind of said, like, hey, surprise, we have Salesforce nonprofit. Can you fix it for us? I was like, yes, this is what kind of opportunity is this? This is awesome. And ironically, that's just when the pandemic happened. So everything closed. It's a organization for kids, basically to teach them how to work with like drones and hackathons. It's called Hackground. Very cool place. So it was perfect between teaching kids and tech. But that closed and then everything became online, and I was on 1,000,001 Facebook groups. I found this organization for Oxford University, where they were actually getting volunteers, Salesforce consultant volunteers that could help with like these little projects in South and Central America for people that spoke Spanish. And being Costa Rican and being adopted, that really related to me. So quickly just came on, and it was a great group. We were leading people from everywhere globally. And I just feel like the biggest suggestion that I would give to people that are starting, it's always like, get out there. You don't know the opportunities until you really put yourself out there and dig. So yeah, that's kind of like how I started and found the position. And everything just really grew from there.
That's awesome. I like too that you had like the opportunity where you got in, you're like, okay, data science is it. And then you're
Yeah.
like, oh, actually, this is probably not what I'm going to do. And I like that you call that out, because that's something we actually talk a lot about in this community, where it's like, you're brand new to it. So everybody kind of feels that pressure of like, oh man, well, I guess I have to like find a path and do that trailhead, like do the path, do everything about it, get the cert. And then like, that's it until I guess I get promoted or something else. And I like that you're calling out early to say, no, like it's not a set in stone thing. Like you could actually pick something, check it out, see if you like it. And if you don't like it, be open to the options that, yeah, you can always change it. You could do something else. You can learn a new skill set and go down a different path like yourself.
Mhm.
And that kind of leads us into some of the topics we want to go over this time, because we really haven't talked with a lot of consultants.
Mhm.
Is okay, so you kind of get into it, you find your footing somewhat in the Salesforce industry at this point. You go through some of your career there. And at what point were you like, okay, I have enough experience and I want to get into consulting? And what motivated you to want to do that?
That's a great question. Actually, I did not, I don't know why, but like the first position I had was at a company named Tuano Consulting, and they really hire on culture, like who you are. Um, so don't get me wrong, like I definitely came super prepared for the technical interviews and all that stuff, which was fantastic, but they really hired on culture. And that's something that I saw stand out between working like with data science and tech companies, right? They want the person who knows the most coding languages and years of experience, and same things that you see sometimes with Salesforce. But with Torrent, I went in, they were like, yeah, you would take this business analyst position, kind of consultant, and you would work your way up to consultant within a year. And ironically, I always don't know if I sound silly saying this, but like I didn't understand what consulting was. And I was quickly put into like 4 or 5 projects at a time. And that was just a lot for me. And I think something that I've discovered with the 3 consultancies that I've worked with is that consultancies, you work with different clients, like however many clients, it can be healthcare, marketing, Pardot, all these different backgrounds. So I quickly obviously found out what consulting was. um, and I loved it. I think that with Salesforce specifically, and that's why I advocate and try and help people coming into the industry, is that no matter what background that you come in from, like education, tech, I've met some race car drivers. I mean, like all of these things, it's really cool. Yeah. All of these things that you have, these skill sets, I think working at restaurants have helped me honestly the most. Um, talk it within a consultancy type of area in consultancies meetings. But yeah, I didn't know what consulting was, and I quickly learned over the time, and I'm still learning. Pay's book is one of the best books that I've had to kind of understand like how to talk. And I've seen that it's more soft skills at the end of the day and like project management. So I'm quickly learning every project. It's something different. And yes, soft skills for the win. Definitely. Saw that come in the chat.
Yeah, 100%. I think we also talk about that a lot too. And it's been interesting because a lot of the guests we've had before have also mentioned the same type of mindset shift they've had, where it's like you get into Salesforce, you think it's so technical. And obviously there are technical pieces and you do have to know those hard skills. But then it quickly turns into like your soft skills. Like once you start realizing like to go up into certain positions, and even if you just took that like classic pyramid that they have of you're an admin, you kind of move up to like a technical architect. Even as you go through those rungs, you start realizing like the more and more time you actually start spending talking to people. And I think that's even just in like regular jobs, right? Like if you were starting off as just doing whatever and you wanted to work up to be an executive, you start realizing that you spend less time doing the actual work and a lot more time talking about strategies and solutions and management, right? So I think that is a really good call out too there, which is like, yes, you are going to have this bar of entry to learn those skills. But it's almost more of a need to start focusing on your soft skills so that you can get into those positions as you want to move up the rungs there. So love that idea of it. At this time, when you're consulting, at this point in your timeline that we've gotten to, is this about where you started YouTubing and like posting your journey, or did that start before?
Well, during the pandemic, I was going with, I feel like, and I'm going to say this confidently, through my little like personal crisis, like how do I move forward? How do I still connect with people online? And I think YouTubers like lifestyle blogs, I know you and I have spoken about Ali one time, like the productivity king. And I was like, I want to start reading more. I want to start discovering who I am during the pandemic because that was like the time to do so. You're with yourself. And I just got really inspired. The joke I always say, though, is when I was trying to create content or figure out like where to go, um, my husband, because we were in the apartment all the time, he probably was tired of me talking to him. So that's why I joke I created the YouTube channel. But it just quickly became a source of like just, I don't know, connecting with people at the end of the day. And I found that I get my own type of like therapy from it and like getting out there and having an outlet of creativity because you learn so much in consulting and pivoting like a journey and just sticking to things that I just want to share it. Like I have an ongoing list on Notion of things that I want to share. So yeah, it definitely started, I think, I know my year mark has hit, so like I would say like a year and a half ago, and I constantly upload, if not weekly, bi-weekly, or at least try.
Nice. And yeah, like you said, it does allow you to kind of connect with more people, and kind of going into maybe a topic I wasn't planning on is like your Dreamforce too. Like, did you feel like because you YouTube and things like that, was it easier to go to a conference like that? I guess that's kind of a loaded question. Let's start here first, which is, have you been to a conference before Dreamforce, or was that your first one?
I went to Texas Dreaming,
Okay.
and that's when I had already started blogging, but I had like taken the camera with me. So I felt more confidence, but also like, what is she doing with the camera? Like literally, this is big thing. And I would just take it. And like people seem to engage like pretty fine with it. And then I posted about going to Dreamforce and during the pandemic, Focus on Force and Salesforce Ben both reached out to me to do work for them, which I have done. And I think between all of the YouTube Focus on Force, Salesforce Ben, and connecting with those legends that we talked about, like it's made me see that they're just people at the end of the day too. And we all have so much fun creating the content. But no, Texas Streaming was definitely the first event. I recorded it. Ike was there. He was in it. Brad too. So that was fun. And then I went to Dreamforce and also recorded Dreamforce. And I kind of talked to people more in like that. That was my opportunity to go to lifestyle blogs. where I talked to them about like, yeah, I'm scared to death. Like Christine from Salesforce Ben, she's the director. We were so scared. Like that was our first time speaking on stage. We had the biggest stage on the first floor. Our hands were sweating. Like it was just so much. But it was absolutely amazing. Like getting up there and us being able to connect, like, and empower each other, woman to woman. Like it's just an event that I'm so grateful for her. She was originally going to send it in herself, and then she was like, let's do this together, because we did a webinar in Salesforce Ben, and it's just grown from there. And I'm eternally grateful for her.
Yeah, that's so cool too. Cause yeah, you've been to like this conference before. Where I was heading with that too is like as you've gotten into YouTubing and just sharing more content in general, like once you got to the Dreamforce stage, I think maybe some people, I think myself included, because I actually haven't been to many events, is like when you pay to go to these things, especially one in like San Fran, like either the DX or Dreamforce, I
Mm-hmm.
think some people kind of feel like nervous a little bit, right? Because it's like, well, I'm going to go and maybe I have someone I get to go with, or maybe I don't. And then when I get there, like, then what? Because then it's all these people I don't know. And I'm sure people have that. So do you feel like getting yourself out there online was like easier to kind of have conversations with people? And then like two, were there like people out there that kind of like recognized and like came up to you and made it easier to have conversations and make friends with people while you were there?
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely. I think two things. I'm very much an introvert, and I'm not sure if that happened during the pandemic, but just like working from home. But I think I gained more confidence within myself and also speaking again in camera, doing the YouTube. But I definitely saw people like recognize me, and it like being with Christine definitely was nice too, because she would introduce me to people she know, vice versa, I know. But I definitely had my group there. I went to the sessions that I wanted to. It was exhausting. Like Dreamforce is exhausting. It's like running back and forth through like college classes. But I just found myself really making sure that I divided time, and I didn't go to the red I can never say that band's name. Sorry. But I didn't go to like the musical event. I decided to go out and explore Chinatown, because that was really important for me to divide like my own time of exploring the city, versus going in there and absorbing so much content. But really, I think one piece of advice for people that go there, like have some friends to meet up with. It's definitely very intimidating sometimes, because there's people from globally coming all over, but just having like your group that you can kind of add on to every year, that's kind of like my key.
Okay, cool. I like that tip. Yeah, I think that makes the planning a little bit easier and makes it less intimidating, like you said, because there are a lot of people there showing up, and we've had that question come up a couple times too with like events and okay, I know I should probably go to these and it's a great networking opportunity, but like here's like the reasons maybe I fear to do that. So I thought I'd ask you that. The
Yeah.
next part of that too is speaking in Dreamforce, you obviously were able to have the opportunity to speak there. You touched on that a little bit. Do
Mhm.
you want to kind of break down a little bit of the topic that you discussed and what was that like as you prepared for that?
Yeah, I actually just made an article for Salesforce Ben on how to prepare for speaking events. So it's perfect timing. So Christine and my deal with Salesforce Ben is I write monthly career content for them. And of course, like being an admissions counselor, one of the main focuses I worked with students was like their portfolio, their resume, their LinkedIn, all that stuff to really put them in front of the admissions team and give them that yes or no. So something that Christine had always wanted to do was more career content that now that she's joined. And our approach was having like how to craft a Salesforce resume, because there's a huge difference within Salesforce and a really big opportunity to have more visuals and more creativity on your resume. So we did a webinar together. And I think that had like 400 registered people for it and had a great turnout event. So she kind of came to the idea of like, hey, like this was fantastic and people need this, whether they're starting their Salesforce career or advancing. So she drafted the entire thing, said, hey, Megan, do you want to do this? And I was like, what? Sure. And it worked. Like a month later, we heard back, and the process from there was like just practicing. I think that her and I are so accustomed to doing webinars and talking live with people, but it's so different when you're like in person. Like we were both sweating. I was freaking out before the event. And as soon as you get up there, it's like you black out and like things that we practiced. And I'm telling you, we practiced every day. And when we finally got up there, I was like, we were spitting bars like we never like had said before. And I was like, where did you come up with that? And she's like, where did you think of that? And I was like, whoa, we're different people. So I just think it was a great opportunity, but practice really, really helped. Solemn too offers like practicing for Dreamforce speakers. So we were able to kind of like hear what they thought. We also speak to the Salesforce team. They have to give us the go before we go up on the stage. So just having all of that feedback was really key. But I think us trusting each other and having a partner, if you ever want to speak at Dreamforce or a speaking event, having a partner is a really great first way to go.
Yeah, I could definitely see the advantage of that, especially being like brand new and like, okay, I'm kind of leaning on you as like a guide a little bit.
Yeah.
And when you partnered with her, she had given already like some speeches at Dreamforce before.
I think that was her first time.
Oh
I
wow. Okay. So
yeah, she's done like London's Calling and obviously
oh,
'cause
okay.
she's in Europe. But no, this was her first time because she said that was her first time in San Francisco. So
Okay, cool.
yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay, well, still nice, I guess, in that light that she has had some like speaking experience to help get up there and like maybe calm your nerves a little bit to be like, okay, this isn't all just on me to like fill the time. I have somebody else to help me out. I think that's great. Okay, cool. I think those are all great tips around that. I wanted to get to some of those topics. Again, because I feel like on your end, like you do a really great job of breaking that down and making that seem like more of like, hey, this isn't just for somebody out there that has been in the industry for 10 years and they get invited to go do this. Like, if you want to go and do it, and I believe you've mentioned this like in your video, because I did watch it back, like your Dreamforce one, like just kind of talking about it, right? And being like, dude, like, yeah, I know what I'm talking about. I know like my stuff. And like, this is why I'm choosing to go in and do this. And I'm not going to second guess myself. Like, I am good. I am an expert at this kind of stuff and
Yeah.
I'm willing to do it. And just having that confidence, I think, is big. And I haven't done it personally, but I would imagine like after you do conquer something like that, especially at a big event, like I'm sure your confidence like had to go up after that as well to be like, okay, like I can take on a lot of projects and I can do stuff like this, you know?
Yeah, it definitely did. I want to continue doing events. I think I also have imposter syndrome sometimes when I'm like you said, like you see the people and I'm connected with all the people that do like speaking events regularly and like they've been doing this for 5 or 10 years. And I still like question myself like a little bit of imposter syndrome, but I'm trying to figure out ways to continue doing that to inspire people that are newer, that do have a lot to offer. But yeah, it does give you a little bit of a, especially on YouTube. I'm like, okay, we got this.
I love that. Okay. So we talked a lot about your Dreamforce experience, some speaking opportunities, some of your YouTubing. I wanted to give you a little more of a platform there too. Now that I'm kind of saying that back, is we talked a lot about like you started your YouTube and like some of the purpose behind starting it. But tell us a little bit more about you first started off. I remember kind of doing some more like specifically Salesforce related. This is what we're doing. And then, as you mentioned, like you and I know we've talked personally about like direction on that and how you want to do that and like when to pivot. So tell us now what you're doing with like your YouTube channel and the direction you're trying to head in and why you felt like you wanted to make that pivot.
That's a great question. So when I first started the YouTube channel, I was even like confused with how to start with the name, right? Like Salesforce with Megan. And I was like, but if I put Salesforce, that really like niches me just as Salesforce. And I think what I learned over time and watching YouTubers is that I want this to go bigger. It comes into different industries talking at events at the first time. Like, how do you maximize productivity? How do you navigate tech as a woman? How like as a Latina? Like, there's so many things that I want to talk about. And I really felt like if I stayed with Salesforce content, I would I would feel like I was in a box in a way. And I really don't want to feel that. I feel like there's so much of life that I want to share with people. And when I get to talking with my mentees, I hear them and what I hear the most actually is like trying to get over stuff in their personal life. Like it comes a lot to like, how do I manage Salesforce being a mother of three? Or how do I manage like pivoting out of retail into Salesforce? So I think what I want to share with them is like the life, and that's really the purpose of the lifestyle content, is to be like, hey, like you can learn the tech. If you really, really, really put your focus to it, you can learn the tech. But there's a lot of different aspects that come with life, that come with learning tech. And I think I learned all that um being an admissions counselor. Honestly, admissions counselor kind of equals like therapist in a way, because you're helping people pivot out of their insecurities. And I'm insecure, and I want to share that too, that there's hardship that I go through, and you probably go through that too. So let's talk about it together. And I think that's what I found the most comfort with during the pandemic, is when I can see people on a one-to-one level, like for who you are. Like you go through hardship, and I want to see that. Honestly, I want to see that you go through that so I can relate to you. So that's the purpose of the content. That was the shift. I hope it works, but at the end of the day, I feel very at peace with myself to be able to do that, and I hope others feel that too.
Yeah, and with the lifestyle content that you have, like obviously you still do Salesforce, you're still a consultant. So there's obviously going to be some connection points there. But is the overall goal, I guess, at this point, is it supposed to more reflect like this is kind of like my journey and I went into tech and I learned this thing called Salesforce and like this is how life is going? Or is it just kind of like this is Megan and we have an open-ended box now and currently this is what I'm doing, but it could be whatever in the future?
Yeah, it's definitely going to stay Salesforce, because I do like the day in the life of a Salesforce consultant, because I think that is pretty cool. But I think it's also like I would like to be kind of more like that tech YouTuber, but that does have a focus on Salesforce, because I that's what I have to talk about. So I have done, like I just developed an advanced flow 201 course internally for Solemn. So that was like I didn't do the technical side. I did the project management side. Like, so I had 7 instructors, we have 25 students, and it was like, how do you build a course, and I would like to talk maybe, and this is like where I see myself going, like on the project management side, UX design, marketing side, that approach, like watch this journey kind of develop and the things I've learned, and let me teach you some helpful things around the way, like how to be more productive, how to be more organized, how to keep your shit together. All of these things that I think would be the non-technical concepts that was never me. And I had to make that pivot really quick when I found that out.
Okay, and to circle this back for the community too, because a lot of these folks, right, like they're trying to move into Salesforce. They're probably in a different job. Some of them I know are certified and maybe have some volunteer stuff under their belt, but most of them are like, we're in a new job and I'm switching over. So I've obviously talked about it with like my own journey with content and trying to put myself out there. How have you felt like that's helped you though, just in general, like get better career positions or move yourself up that way?
Yeah, one thing that I did differently, because I left my second consultancy firm and I was unemployed for 4 months, and it was mainly because I was trying to really find the company that I wanted to stay in for a while. So that's, I kind of took a chance with myself, and I put my YouTube on my resume. And when I would go into having the interviews, the first thing that the interview manager would say was like, "Hey, I watched your video. Oh, that's great. Hope you liked it." But I think by just getting myself out there and making more, like, especially from Salesforce spend, it's been terrific to have them and then also focus on Force and work with them. Um, it's been able to give me more confidence to talk about more technical concepts and more career concepts. And I think it makes me more of that, like, um, the person who knows this, the person who knows that. Like, it's coming from a trusted source like Salesforce Ben. So definitely hiring managers notice that. They can see that I have the soft skills. Um, and I'm working on the tech skills, but it definitely gives me more credibility when I do go to interviews or user groups. But I think just being able to see the friendly side, the real side, has really, really helped. I don't get any job interviews or opportunities anymore. I'm not sure if it's because I'm with Slalom, but everything else has worked.
Okay, cool. And I like you being honest about that part too, because I feel like it's definitely like waves, right? Like I
Yeah.
feel the same. Like I feel like when recruiting season kind of opens up, and then obviously we've had like a lot of stuff just happen in the world with economies and
Yeah.
global issues and things like that that I think have slowed some stuff down. Even I guess our last event, we talked with Chris Hopper, a recruiter. So he was kind of saying some similar stuff. It's like, yeah, it's a little slow for us. Like right now is like what we're seeing. So
Yeah.
I feel the kind of the same, and like it does come in waves though. And I feel like more than anything, and you can say if this is different for you, but I think more than anything, it's just like kind of a way to be able to brain dump like what you know and how you're good at stuff. And I honestly don't really think too much about it at this point. Like it's just kind of something I do. I'll post content. And I think what people think about a lot of creators is that like we post something and I'm like sitting there thinking about it all day. And I think in the early days I did that. But I
Yeah.
think at this point it's like a post goes out, and then if somebody has like something to say about it or it becomes controversial for whatever reason, I'm just like, I honestly don't even remember like what I put out there. Like I scheduled this went out a couple
Yep.
weeks ago. Like I got to go back and read this. Cause for me, at least at this point, like the whole point is to do a couple things you mentioned. One, to connect with people. Two, to help people. And three, to like just publish what I know and give myself a better chance so that when I'm looking for jobs, when I'm looking to try to pivot or whatever, it's already out there and easy for somebody to find. So I really don't try to look at it at this point anymore as like something where it's like a difficult, I'm overthinking it. It's just kind of like, yeah, hey, I think this is helpful. I'm going to post it. We'll see how it goes from here. And I'm not going to really think twice after it's out there. And I'm going to move on to the next post. Right. So I think a lot of the things you just mentioned too are really key that way, where it's just, even if it's not a job opportunity every single day or like right off the bat, you're putting yourself out there with like good karma, getting yourself in front of other people to get to know you. You already touched on it with like the Dreamforce and how that helped you. And I think as far as what you said at the beginning too, to connect that is you said there's a ton of soft skills that come into play, and like the journey of trying to figure out how to create stuff, how to talk to people, how you say things, how you act on camera. Like all that is not only going to help you with your Salesforce stuff, but get you prepared for a lot of those types of scenarios. I think like just an interview in general, right? It's like, okay, well, if I'm talking to a camera all the time because I'm doing interviews or I'm doing YouTube stuff, how much easier is it going to be when I have to like get on a call with somebody else? Like I'm used to this. I know how it goes. I know how to like find
Yeah.
my way around. So I think there's all that I just wanted to tie back to everything you've been saying, because I think they're all amazing points to make on that. I wanted to break this up real quick since we're a little past halftime. Is Garen, I know you sent me a message right before this of something to ask. Garen, do you mind asking the question to Megan? I have it on my phone,
Yeah,
but I didn't type it out. I'm sorry.
yeah, no, you're good. Actually, I was just about to raise my hand to ask anyway. So, but first of all, I want to say two things. First of all, Megan, I really appreciate the authenticity piece that you talked about in the beginning, because I think that is so much of that in today's world, not even just Salesforce, not even just LinkedIn, but I think that stuff rises to the top. And it's so cool to be like, I remember like messaging Jordan, like, I feel like I'm on the outside, like learning Salesforce, and I wish I could get just like a little view of the inside, right? Just like a little peek at like what you actually do. So all that stuff is awesome, and I'm on a productivity kick too. Just like a couple
Yeah.
of podcasts and listening, it's so cool. It's a lot of fun. But my question to you is, so I'm currently a salesperson. I love soft skills. I love talking about soft skills. So for you, especially kind of like you were saying, you were a little bit more introverted come, once COVID hit, but
Mhm.
um, for you, what are some things that maybe you can do to work on your soft skills, and then maybe showcasing those on LinkedIn or whatever, avenue you choose?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I used to like, even though I was an admissions counselor, we also had kind of quotas that we needed to hit. Like we needed to get in like UC Berkeley was very strict. So like you had 50 students that you needed to get in per cohort. And it's very similar to Salesforce. Like you had to get them to apply, get them to pay the deposit, and actually enroll, yada yada yada. So from a sales perspective, and I actually really kind of use that when I do LinkedIn, like postings and stuff like that. I think one of the biggest skills coming from there is that you're able to listen to people. when you're in sales. And even on client calls. So two things. You're able to go to these type of meetings, right? Like Salesforce meetings. You're able to pick up, you're able to have more confidence sometimes and ask more questions that people might be like too scared to ask or may sound silly in their head. Like I did it earlier. I attended a design webinar and I was like, this question makes no sense. I'm just going to ask it anyways, but in a very respectful manner. But I think asking questions definitely separates you. When it comes to posting, I think that breaking down your journey is a great thing. And I think that a lot of people are kind of like, what do I post? What do I do? And it's like, well, your journey is your biggest thing. And everybody's journey is different. Like what skills have you learned, or what platforms are helpful to you, or even breaking down like the productivity podcasts that you're listening to. I think those are really great ways, and some things that I've learned of creating content too. And then there was a second point and I just forgot about it, but it was asking questions, putting yourself out there. But basically I think people with education backgrounds and sales backgrounds are one of the most people I've seen succeed the best, because you have more confidence to talk with clients. Oh, that's another thing. Listening to clients. When you get into consultancy, you're an admin. Being in sales, we really have to listen, because we need to be able to push back and be like, well, you said A, B, C, and D. And it may not be a technique that everybody likes to hear, but there's some truth to that. So when you are listening and talking to clients and even saying like, hey, I worked with Salesforce before and I know what your sales reps are going through, like, and they really like that whenever I say that to them. So definitely resonate with the clients that you're working with, but even on the social media side, just kind of post your journey. That's the best tool that you have.
Yeah. Any resources, any books, any people that you follow for the soft skill side of things?
There's this book called A More Beautiful Question that I'm delaying making a YouTube video about it, but A More Beautiful Question, I think it's something along the lines of that, basically helps you ask questions better, and be more purposeful about your content, not your content, your questions. Pay's book that you put in the chat really helped me break down, like, how do I, from an introductory level, how do I go about the design process? How do I ask better questions? How do I listen to my client? Those are some resources. And then Jordan, you probably know him, Brandon Burchard. Am I saying his name right?
Oh, it sounds familiar. I don't know if I recall right off the top of my head though.
He's like a productivity guru too, but I listen to a lot of his stuff and it really helps me kind of like post too about that stuff. And then lastly is just surrounding yourself from other people and helping them really grow on their journey too. Really helps you come up with ideas of what to get out there, and using your sales background. Like, hey, I kind of help you too.
Awesome. Thank you.
De nada.
Cool. Thanks for asking the question, Garen. Super helpful to get a little more perspective on that too. I think the next direction, Megan, that we wanted to go here is we've talked a lot about like your YouTube now, Dreamforce, some consulting stuff. We haven't touched on though some of the other cool milestones that I haven't even talked with you about since last time you and I chatted, which is like your Discord channel. So I guess slightly we've talked about it, but not really. Tell us a little bit more about the Discord channel, what it is, and your motivation to want to create that.
Yeah, so when I was learning Salesforce, I actually failed the admin exam 3 times. And that's because I talk about this now, like learning how to learn is extremely hard, especially like if you've been out of college for a while or you are not the best test taker. So there were a lot of aspects that I was missing. And even like 3 years ago, there weren't that many YouTubers online. There weren't that many people doing like study groups, and it's really hard for me to learn sometimes. So there was another Discord group for more advanced professionals. What I felt like it was more advanced. And I didn't feel like very confident or like safe asking questions. I felt like my questions were dumb or not, like I should be at a better level. So one of my friends, being a creator, had a Discord server for IT professionals. And I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. And I'm not really a fan of Slack. So I created the Discord server and I had 4 moderators, and I've always had moderators, and it's people who generously volunteer their time. They are kind of like system admins for the platform, but that Discord server is designed specifically for new Salesforce professionals coming into the industry. You have a whole different categories, and the categories are broken down into channels. So I have like sections for like mental health. I'm a military spouse, so like military sections where I work with like hiring our heroes, job opportunities that come up. So there's so many cool different things, and there's also like robots that you can have that are pre-programmed. So there's just so many cool things that you can do. And now currently I have a team of 8 moderators, and we have an active book club that reads 3 to 4 books a year. And this, we're actually reading Pay's book, and she's coming in on next Tuesday to kind of talk about it. So it's really grown. I love it. And it's kind of like that safe spot for new professionals.
That's really cool of you too, because I don't think you mentioned it, but is it still a free resource for you to join if you wanted to?
Yeah, completely free.
Cool. Yeah. And I think that alone too, right, is like, there's like this balance for sure of trying to figure out like how you're going to do that and how you want to approach it. I think that was kind of a motivation for myself as well. Like with this community is I didn't really want to blow the pricing out of the water for some of the things that we host. Like it costs a certain amount per month. So it made sense to have like a charged area for people to come in for us.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I didn't want to create another thing out there where it's like, okay, my option is learn for free. And I don't know anything about this. I don't really know how to learn, or I don't know how to like be guided on this. Cause I started realizing like with my own DMs that there was just like a lot of like that in general, where it's just like, okay, I know Trailhead's free, but like, what the heck do I do on there? Like, how do I actually even figure this out? And I just need somebody to kind of walk me through how to get started on this kind of stuff. So I started realizing that same thing that you're talking about. So I think it's really cool on your end that you've committed to that. Might change obviously in the future for you as you guys continue to grow, but at least from the initial jump to be like, hey, I'm going to do this as long as possible as a free resource so that people have that space to be able to join, ask questions, not feel picked on or like they're in a bad position for the questions that they're asking. Because I'm sure you could test this too. I still have those questions. I just had one like today. I'm on some project and it's a lot of strategic advising. And I'm just like, I need to like ask somebody this question, but like, who do I ask? Because
Yeah.
I don't want to come off like I don't know what I'm doing, or like you got to kind of know who to ask and the right people. And like, I don't want somebody to get the wrong impression about it. So it is like a real thing. And I think it stays with you as you continue to level up, because even in my position now with how many years I've been doing it now, I'm still like, okay, but then there's like these people I look up to that are architects and know this stuff like the back of their hand. And this would be a dumb question to ask, or whatever. So
Yeah.
it's an awesome place to be able to have that. In your guys' community over there, or in your Discord server, I should say, how does it like typically work in case somebody here wants to join? Like, do they just go and join and then they just show up and talk with people? Or do you guys have like a weekly cadence on stuff?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I actually took all last Friday creating a server. I updated my entire Discord, and that took like 5 hours, but I'm very proud of it. Because there's actually really cool analytics behind Discord, like very much more detailed than like Slack. And I can see how many users are completely new to Discord, and it's like 80% that are new to Discord. Yeah, I have my game. I know who like when they come in, there's like a bot in the back end that I can see like your username. So like if your username is like Jordan Nelson, then I know that you're new to Discord. But if your name is like I can beat your mom, like something like that, I'm like, oh, okay, you're a game, because Discord is a gaming platform. So I have like these people who like join with like the office pictures, and like you can tell. So yeah, like basically once you get in, what I had to do, because 80% of the people are new to Discord, was I had to create a server guide. So essentially when you come in, I have a bot, and I love the bot features. They essentially guide you to like, hey, this is your introduction. Check out and please introduce yourself. Check out what we're chatting about, check out community events, because through this, actually, I've been able to like connect with Salesforce Ben, local community groups, Filipino Force, and different user groups where I'm able to put in like an event section. And that's something different from Slack. We have events and it like reminds you like, and you can add pictures to make it more like fun. I have David Nava's kind of people come in and put in their events. So it's working really, really well. But basically when you come in completely free, you can check out the server guide. We actually, and I know I'm talking about this so much, sorry, but we just worked out a deal with Focus on Force to get 4 free vouchers to be able to give out to the community. So it's working really well, and everything's like free and volunteer. I have what I try and do for my moderator, since we are a team of 8, is that I give them like a free resume review, LinkedIn review, because that's services that I provide. And then in return, we have the Discord help them within their professional career too. So the 2 developers we had, they actually created like an entire website for the platform. They're creating and coding bots in the back. So this is giving them the experience, and they're able to list this in their LinkedIn profile. So they, even today when we were at that design meeting, my marketing manager was like, yeah, I'm the marketing manager for the Salesforce Professionals Discord server. So it works for both the moderators, and it's fantastic. As Max kind of pointed out, there's voice channels where we have like accountability sessions. We have our book clubs and stuff like that. So it's way more interactive, I guess is what I'm saying, than Slack. So go Discord.
Yeah, Discord is awesome for that.
Yeah.
I'm not too familiar with it. But like last year, the year before, with the whole wave of NFT stuff, I definitely joined my fair share of Discord channels. And so that was kind of like my first time being in it. And I know what you're talking about. Like it gets pretty crazy. And like the automations you can create are awesome. What I saw a really popular one too, was kind of wondering if you do this as well, is like, I felt like most of the ones I joined, they had some type of like almost automatic like reward thing, right? So it's like, hey, if you comment and like, you level up in this Discord, and then as you level up, then you can like get a better price like on our NFT, or you get access to this or something like that. Is that the kind of stuff that like you are like wanting to work towards in yours, or not really? And it's just like more of like automations around like simplifying stuff.
I'm still trying to figure out Discord. Like my first moderator was a college graduate that like was on Discord, and he's the gamer. So he actually set up a good amount, like roles. As soon as you get into Discord, you can assign like your roles, how many certifications you have. So like you can make it fun. You can click on like your profile and be like, oh, this person has XXX stuff. So like when he left, I was like, okay, I really got to take this seriously. I got to figure out Discord. Believe it or not, that there's not that many YouTube videos on how to configure a Discord server. So I'm really winging it, and I'm very grateful for my moderators, because it's giving them the opportunity to like, we have a daily news section where we have a bot that kind of just takes LinkedIn URLs from Salesforce Ben, Focus on Force, admins podcast, and it just uploads it every morning. And I'm like, hey, it's your daily news section. So, in the future, I don't know where I want to take the Discord. I like where it is right now. We don't have enough activity because we're such a new Discord that it's not allowing me to like monetize it. If I did get monetization from it, I would love to be able to create merch and like give it out to like active participants. But I'm still trying to figure that out. It's pretty cool.
That is really cool. And I like that idea too, that I guess you have those kind of 2 options, because like you could go through something like ourselves where it's like, okay, you're taking the money up front, and then you got to kind of figure out how you want to divvy that out. Or you can do the second option, which is also great, because for almost everybody involved, like they all think it's free. And on your end, because it's like a growing community, it's kind of like the YouTube idea where it's like, okay, I'm making these videos, they're technically free, but I could start getting monetized off the ads on the back end to kind of cover costs. That's a really cool idea. And I think like the merch thing, it's always like something that's brought up too, of like just like being able to join a group, having something there. And I want to say I've even seen this in like I've tried to look into a lot of onboarding stuff myself, of like, okay, like what's a good onboarding experience? And one of them was like a call out on that. When it was like, as soon as you have somebody join, the quicker you can get physical merchandise into their hands on their desk or whatever it is, like the more connected they're going to feel to your group. So like for him in this example, he's like, We just have like it on set, like as soon as somebody purchases, we have
Mhm.
their billing information. We just automatically have like a mug that we've made get sent out to where they're at. And then hopefully that mug is like on their desk. They see it. They're part of our group and they have this like physical connection with us because it's like in their home now. So yeah, I think that's a really cool idea moving forward, like with your guys' merchandise and like having like a reward system that way.
Yeah.
Um, Super cool that way.
Yeah, that's gonna be the goal, hopefully. Cross your
For
fingers.
sure. I also like too that you have like that outlet for people to get the real life volunteering too. I know
Mhm.
volunteering in general seems to be like a hot topic for whatever reason right now of how people get that experience. So I
Yeah.
think that's an awesome one where it's like, hey, like this is a free resource. So I'm doing it for free too. You can join and do it for free. But at the same time, like you have these opportunities to be able to actually do real life stuff that we could put on your resume that would help you out. And it's going to give you that experience to use in those interviews as you move forward. So I think that's an awesome way to approach it too.
Yeah.
I know that one was kind of specifically for Garen because Garen's always asking me how we can come up with a better idea in our community to like set something up like that. And I'm like, I just don't know. And like the time to do it, I don't know how we're going to do it. So that's a great way to do it.
You know, David Nava actually, because I was having a hard time with moderators at first, just because it is volunteer, right? And I try whenever I have a moderator come on, you know, your life comes first. This is just a volunteer thing. Like, thank you so much for your time. But David Nava, since he has a team, he kind of said, like, you know, it's I give them what I can. And that was like a resume review for him. They get to put it on their LinkedIn experience, especially as military spouses or professionals. And I really said, David, that's brilliant. Gonna take that and run with it. Okay, bye. And I think that's really helped. But I think just being there and what I've noticed for people, and you do a fantastic job at it too. It's just like everybody needs somebody in the industry. Like you just need to hold out your hand and kind of be there. And that's one thing I think that we've grown in the moderators of 8 people, which is amazing to even say, um, is that we are kind of like a moderator family at the end of the day. Like I'm going to Japan next month, finally, by the way. And two of my moderators are actually in Japan. And I'm meeting one of them, the other one's on base. But it's like those connections that you build over time. So it's been really cool to see.
That is fun too, especially a global connection like that. I always screw up how to say her name, but Korab Tulane in Pakistan. Like I feel kind of the same way with her. Like I've talked with her a ton. She's done like Pakistan Dreamin' and that kind of stuff over there. And I'm like, okay, like if I was ever somewhat in that area, it'd be cool to like meet up with her.
Yeah.
I feel that same way about it, which is a really fun thing where it's like, just I don't know how you would have that connection in any other way, right? Other than putting yourself out there and putting yourself in these positions. Also super awesome that you're going to be able to finally go to Japan. That's going to be great to go over there. And I feel like you're just in time for like all the cherry blossoms, aren't you? Like you're going to hit that like right away.
Well, I'm gonna give my age here, but like I'm turning 30 next year, gosh, next month.
Okay.
And I really wanted to go out with a bang. You know, I've done everything that I really wanted to do at 29, and I'm kind of like saying like what's next at 30? And that finally after the pandemic, everything's open in Southeast or in Asia.
Mhm.
So yeah, I'm gonna be recording that, sharing kind of like working and content creating abroad, and giving kind of a twist to the audience. So it's gonna be fun.
That's going to be a lot of fun. I'm going to have to be stalking you on Twitter and YouTube as you're posting it all.
Yay.
I think the very last thing here, Megan, is we got to a lot of stuff that you're covering, but with the last 5 minutes or so that we have, is there anything that we didn't get to that you want to invite people to follow you on, either like social? Obviously, we talked about your Discord or anything like that that we want to go over.
I would just say I'm super active on LinkedIn. That is my most active platform. YouTube, definitely follow along for the lifestyle and like productivity tips. And yeah, join us on Discord because we have a lot of cool like free events going on, and you get to hear about like other things that are going on from other communities too. So those were the 3 main ones.
Okay, perfect. Well, it looks like you at least had a couple people even in this chat join over there. This will go over to obviously our community, which is 100. I think we're 135, 140 now or something. So we'll get everybody. I'll also post it in our announcements channel so that people just have that quick resource to go and click in and join. So we'll push people your way. And then as always, let us know in our community too, like how we can continue to help you guys. It's always nice to like collaborate after we do things like this.
I agree.
And then lastly, just wanted to thank you again for your time tonight and spending 60 minutes here with us. Looks like there's one last question if you have time for it. Let's see, this one's from Heather. So do you have any resource recommendations to learn more about project management as it relates to Salesforce?
Yeah, I'm coming out with like 5 videos on how to manage project management because I realized that there wasn't a lot of content out there for project managers within the Salesforce space. I just see like the job titles sometimes. Yeah. But one other person that I would highly suggest is David Giller. He has a lot of great resources come out, which feels like 3 times a day. He's amazing. But he talks a lot recently, especially about project management. Follow David Giller and then follow Pei, which is the author of the book, but she's also a prior project manager. So they have great tips on there. Yeah. Here. David Giller and Pei. Oh.
Yeah, and David Giller is awesome. Pay as well.
Yeah.
I've talked a little bit with David, and I feel like resembles a lot of like, if you guys enjoy, learning from Megan and like her style, not the same, but I feel like David at least has that same authenticity. Like he's always been really easy to talk to, and it's just like, we'll tell you how it is, which I really appreciate. So that's a cool resource that way too.
Definitely 2 good ones.
Okay, great. Well, thank you again so much. From here, we'll let you know when this goes live on YouTube so that you're aware. And as always, let us know if we can continue to help you out with any of your resources on your end.
That sounds good, Jordan. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, thank you so much. All right,
Bye.
we'll see you guys.
Thank you.